Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council, and welcome to the regular council meeting for Midland Council, Wednesday, February 9th, 2022 at 6 p.m. This meeting is being held virtually, and I would remind people that council meetings are now held every third week rather than every second week or every other week. So, and this evening, a council meeting will not be broadcast live on Rogers, but will be recorded and aired on Rogers TV channel 53 on Thursday, February 10th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And this is one of two occasions when this will happen. There's a conflict, so Rogers is doing his best to accommodate the change we made in procedure bylaw. Call the meeting to order, and I'll just do the traditional land acknowledgement. The town of Midland recognizes that it is located on land which is the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people, now known as the Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation. This territory is within the Pre-Confederation Treaty 5 and Treaty 16, and included within the Williams Treaties of 1923. The town of Midland recognizes that it is located on land which is the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and historic homelands of the Métis, and that our town is home to a large and diverse community of Indigenous peoples. I'll ask now if there are any declarations of conflict of interest. Don't see any. If you should realize that you do have a conflict, please advise the clerk and file the appropriate paperwork. Declare at that time and file the appropriate paperwork with the clerk. Thank you. So I just like everybody, I would like to invite everybody to join me for a moment of silent reflection, and perhaps we'll think about those folks whose lives are being interrupted in Ottawa through the occupation that's going on there now. Hope for a peaceful and rapid resolution to the situation. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this point, I'll turn the meeting over to CAO Deneau and Fire Chief Paul Ryan. They have an announcement to make. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship, and certainly appreciate Council providing us with a bit of an opportunity at the start of these meetings to thank some very important people to the town. And today we wanted to honor one particular individual who's announced his retirement. With your permission, Your Worship, I'll turn it over to Chief Ryan in a second to say a few words about Ken, but I certainly wanted to relay my appreciation for Ken Corville and his tremendous career to this town. Many of you know Ken. He's served here for a long time as a volunteer and as obviously a full-time firefighter. And I've known Ken for only a couple years, but quickly came to appreciate that Ken is certainly someone that cares deeply for his community. Deeply for his community and deeply for his family. His family at work and certainly his family at home are extremely important to Ken, and it shines through in everything he does. The little image behind me is certainly one of those representations of Ken that I was very privileged to witness us donate and represent to Brian Williams, who was a tremendous resident here and a lover of the fire station, and that was because of Ken. And I want to thank Ken for that, but also obviously congratulate him on a very long career, and thank his family as well, because families are really important for these people to be able to serve in the capacity that they do. So I just wanted to extend our appreciation to his family as well. And with that, with your permission, Your Worship, I'll ask Chief Ryan to make a few comments.
Please.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, honored guests. It is my privilege tonight to recognize our fire prevention officer, Ken Corville, after 32 years of distinguished service to the residents of Midland and the Midland Fire Department. As the CAO indicated, Ken started as a volunteer in 1990. He then realized that the bug he had to join as a volunteer grew and that it was a career that he wanted to pursue. So Ken kept advancing his knowledge and taking courses in that and prepared himself for an opening with the town of Midland and the Midland Fire Department. And that became a reality for Ken in 1994. And since 2010, he served as our fire prevention officer. Ken brings a unique passion to his job because he came from suppression. So he understands when he's talking to developers and he's talking to homeowners and they ask the question, but why does the fire code say that? Ken has that passion to make the building and the residents and the business safer for anybody who's going in there, because he understands how fire spreads and how fire works. So he had that unique opportunity to really be able to reach out to the people that he served to say, this is how, and these are the reasons why, which in a lot of cases made his job a little bit easier, because then they were like, oh, now I understand the requirements of the fire code because you've explained it to me. But Kenny took his passion even one step further. Like his passion for the fire service and the firefighters that he served with is second to none. I mean, besides his family being number one, the fire department most likely was number two to Ken and the time that he put in and served and that. But like the CAO indicated, Mr. Brian Williams, when that individual was going through his terminal illness and Kenny was dealing with community living heronia, and the opportunity to take what is truly commitment to your municipality and your department, to be able to make that gentleman's last few days enjoyable, and to have now the Brian Williams Fire Station at the fire hall to promote in that our public education as we move forward will be Kenny's legacy going forward. And that wouldn't have happened without his true commitment, not only to his department, but to the residents that he serves. And that compassion and that is what being a firefighter is all about. And that's the passion and the desire that we have for our employees when they're serving the people that they do. So similar to what the CAO indicated, to Ken's family, Cheryl, Brianne, and Tanner, thank you for letting us have your husband and your father for many years, and the birthdays and Christmases and that might have been missed over that time. He's soon to be yours. And I know that his husband list, I won't say honeydew list, but his husband list will be big and growing. And Ken's wife, Cheryl, has recently retired as well. So we wish you all the best. We thank you for your service. Stay safe and keep in touch. Thank you.
Congratulations, Kenny.
If I may, Your Worship, thank you very much, everyone, for the kind words. As Chief Ryan indicated, none of it would have been possible without the understanding of my family and the commitments my family made in allowing me to pursue my career. It's been a very interesting journey, and like all journeys, we have bumps in the road, but it's got us to where we are today. So I'm very grateful for having had the ability to serve the people of the town of Midland, and it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corville. On behalf of council, congratulations, and hope you have the joy of your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next on the agenda, we have a motion moved by Councillor Olszewski and seconded by Councillor Downer that the contents of the regular council agenda for February 9th, 2022 be approved as amended. Bracket addition to item 10.1 deputation/petitions is correspondence from Georgia-based snow riders regarding the Harborview Trail 305. Council, you've heard the motion. Comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. I should point out too that Councillor Prost indicated she couldn't be with us this evening, so she sends her regrets. Next, we have a motion by Councillor Downer seconded by Councillor Main, that the items and related recommendations contained within the February 9th, 2022 consent agenda as consent items having been considered by council be adopted. Comments or questions with respect to the consent agenda? Seeing none, then all those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have a motion by Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Cunningham. The council resolve in the committee of the whole. All those in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Madam Clerk, did you have something you wish to say?
Well, as you enter committee of the whole, I just wanted to point out that we don't have our deputant. He isn't logged in as of yet, so.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I guess we'll start with the other items, and if maybe if he joins us while we're doing those. If not, he'll have to rebook, and we'll have to do it some other time. Sorry to hear that he's not online, but we'll have to move forward. Councillor Gordon?
Thank you. Is there, I mean, we're in receipt of his presentation, and I think we've all received his correspondence. Is there any type of motion or something that was prepared in anticipation of his presentation and ask council?
There is a motion, yeah.
So I might suggest that, you know, I think we could probably adequately discuss this in his absence. I'd prefer not to, but rather than just completely abandon this, we may be able to return to it later if he's not able to attend.
I would suggest if we could, Councillor Gordon and the rest of council, that I will continue on with the agenda. If we get to, if it's with your opinion, with your permission, we'll go through the rest of the committee as a whole. And if the deputant has not joined us at that point, we'll read the motion and have a discussion if that's fine with everybody. I'm not sure if that's what we're allowed to do, Madam Clerk, but, and I see Councillor Downer has a question.
Be fine with that, Deputy Mayor. I have no
Wonderful.
problem with that.
Thank you, Councillor Downer. Are the rest of us fine? Just a nod to head is fine? Wonderful. All right, so I'll move on to the next item, and if the deputy joins us before I get to that point, we'll be sure to come back. As I said, we do have the motion, so we can read that and we can have the discussion. So next up, we have reports. Nothing was pulled today. That reports that were withdrawn from the consent agenda. So we'll move on to our CEO and the COVID-19 update. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll have brief comments. Obviously, I think we're all obviously aware of the COVID situation. Dr. Gardner did provide an update today to the public on the situation. I think we all know that January was a difficult month in terms of the number of incidents that were impacting our healthcare system, and we've seen that come down, but there still seems to be a focus on managing the capacity within the healthcare system. It was unfortunately a very tragic week in Simcoe, Muskoka in terms of the number of deaths that did occur. However, so that was very unfortunate. 44 cases continue to be in the hospital, 10 are in ICU, and our ICU capacity, especially the ventilator capacity, seems to be at a I wouldn't say a critical point, but a concerning point. So there, again, the healthcare capacity is the issue in terms of managing through the situation. In terms of vaccination status, I think they've seen a substantial decline in the public uptake of vaccinations. I think that number's held relatively stable in terms of what we've been able to achieve. In Midland, there's about 90% in the 12+ year having a first dose, and about 87.9% having the second dose. Again, that's 12+. That number is a little bit lower, obviously, when you go 5+, but that gives you an idea of the vaccination status. One of the interesting things, if you follow the stats that Midland contributes to, is the wastewater analysis that's being done in a number of counties, and Midland is one of 4 counties that contributes to that, because it is apparently a leading indicator of where there could be infection in the community. And so we do provide that level of service through our wastewater and water department, which I think is one of the best wastewater, water departments in municipality. I think we're extremely fortunate to have those professionals there. But having said that, if you look at our wastewater trending rates, and it's fairly consistent across those 4 municipalities, you see a tremendous spike in January, and then you see that coming down again dramatically into February with a bit of a bump in February we're seeing, but not anywhere near the levels we saw in January. So I think, like everyone, we're hoping that we're seeing this 5th wave. Certainly hope to see it dissipate, and hopefully we can continue to open up the economy and get back to life as normal. In terms of the town, I think we've done a great job in managing through all of this. As you know, we opened up the rec center January 31st. There was some restrictions lifted, so we opened up the rec center again under those capacity restrictions. We still have the vaccination proof of vaccination that is required there at this time, so that's all being managed well. People are quite respectful, so that's not an issue for us. We'll pay attention to that. February 22nd is kind of the next date when there could be a lifting of some capacity restrictions, mainly in other areas, but there is a bit of a capacity lifting for some of our areas that we'll continue to implement. And then March, there is again that potential for further lifting of restrictions. So those are in line with the province's plan to safely reopen. And again, that's with the caveat that, we don't see any setbacks or any serious impositions on the healthcare system. So that's kind of the status of where we are with that. January was difficult for I think many municipalities, including ourselves, to manage, both the weather that occurred, but also the absenteeism from illness and from just people having to isolate because of the rules around it all. So there was some, a lot of ball juggling that had to happen with our staffing levels, and people had to pitch in. But I really want to thank our staff and our bargaining units. I thought we were all extremely well versed in how to manage through this. People stepped up to the plate as they always do. Bargaining units were very great and cooperative, as they always have been. So I want to thank all of them, and especially obviously our residents, for their patience in allowing us to deal with this while we're dealing with the pandemic. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Deputy Ross.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Questions or comments with regards to COVID update? I'll start with Councillor Cunningham, and then I'll go to Councillor Gordon. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Mr. Deneau. Just a question around that outdoor rink that's up at the rec center. I know that in some ways it was there to accommodate COVID, but it has been truly, truly appreciated and getting some wonderful use. Will we be able to keep that open through the rest of winter?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Ross, to Councillor Cunningham. That will be up to Mother Nature. As long as Mother Nature accommodates us, we're going to keep it open. The staff certainly felt the community really appreciating, that little piece of happiness out there that seemed to meet a lot of needs. So we're going to do everything we can to keep that open as long as we can. And I think temperature is probably the only factor that will influence that. Certainly we'll do our best to do our part in doing that. And we'll take a hard look at seeing what we can do to provide these types of facilities going forward as well. Obviously, I think it met a need that was obviously existent. So that is something we'll certainly consider for the next year.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Thanks. I echo that sentiment. I've heard nothing but rave reviews about the team that put that together. Basically, where has it been all our lives? Well, they actually do remember when it used to happen. But anyway, it would be awesome to see that continue. I don't know what it costs to do it, but let's make sure that's identified in the budget so everybody knows what the number looks like for next year. And let's continue this. So I just wanted to quickly mention too that the COVID stuff, every day you hear more updates about the protests and the blockages, the lockdown that's caused by protest. And Minister Elliott today, I'm sure as you heard as well, didn't seem to be budging at all. It doesn't sound like any of the vaccine passports or mandates or anything is going to be changing in the province. There's no plans, she said, for anything to change, despite what we see happening around the world and in other provinces. So it doesn't give me a lot of hope that we're going to see any radical change as a result of the protests and the pains that we're suffering as a result, or of course the pains that led up to it. So that being said, I'm just wondering, with no clear signal that things are going to change anytime soon, what contingencies is the town having to come up with through the county and the health unit to try and keep people on board and keep the restrictions in place, because that's what the province tells us we have to do.
Mr. Duno?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Councillor Gordon. I think if we've learned anything in the 2+ years that we've managed this, and it goes for any business that has to do this, is you have to be adaptable to all the changes. And we're certainly, I think, very adept at going through regulations pretty quickly, understanding how we can accommodate them and doing it to the best of our ability. And I think we've done a really good job at that. And I think on a larger scale, I think all of the municipalities, we've done a really good job at sharing information. And I think we've had to do that because a lot of it, there's no playbook on this, so we're all learning this together. But I think, to our credit, we've come together pretty quickly to go through this information, come up with a game plan, and share best practices pretty quickly. So I'm pretty confident whatever we have to manage, we will manage. There are some things, and I think the public appreciates this, we don't have discretion on what laws we have to enforce. We have to do it. Our bylaw officers have to enforce those laws. We have to ask for the vaccination proof when the province, requires us to do those things. We have to, visit businesses who aren't obeying those laws. And, it's not incumbent upon us to determine what those laws are. We are just required to enforce them. So whatever we're required to do, we'll do, but we want to do it trying to balance, obviously offering the services that our residents need and trying to stay open, to the best of our ability. And that's certainly something I think we've done over the last 2 years, and I'm very confident we'll be able to do it again. I think we're all hoping, I think all of us, I think it goes without saying, we're all looking forward to not having any more COVID updates, looking forward to being able to do what we'd like to do when we want to do it. And I think we're all tired, to be honest.
Sure are. Follow up, Councillor Gordon?
Yes, thank you. And I do want to echo that, that praise. I mean, that I think the town's done a pretty darn good job given the state we're in. And of course, we're the most accessible, lowest form of government, so we tend to take it on the chin for all these decisions that are largely or entirely out of our control. I guess my one parting thing is, as easy as it is to pin this on the federal government, and you look at all the anti-Trudeau sentiment. The one reminder I'd like our local residents, and I keep telling them this when I talk to them online or in person, is that the vaccine mandates and the provincial health regulations that we feel are some people are feeling it's crippling us in our economy. This isn't Trudeau. I'm not trying to make excuses for that dude, but this is entirely our provincial government. So, when you're going to redirect your anger and your upset, it's not at Mr. Deneau, it's not at town council for those decisions. Plenty of things we are responsible for, but this is squarely in the hands of the provincial government, unless you're talking about crossing our borders. That clearly is the fact. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands. People are angry, they're upset, they're sick of this, they just want to get on with their lives. Right now, the focus of all their anger and energy appears to be on the F Trudeau campaign, but this, really it should be F Ford if you really want to go that way, because it's the province that's responsible for this. So it's not Midland Council or the municipality. We're playing the card we have to deal with. So I appreciate all the efforts. The municipality, I continue to support the efforts and look forward to the day this all ends. Largely, this leads up to the motion that comes later tonight about our parking. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Downer?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. Deneau for all his hard work on this COVID file. I'm glad he's there for, to follow the rules of science. And I haven't been out of the house in over 3 weeks. I'm terrified of catching that virus. And I wholeheartedly support all he's doing. I know he's got a lot on his plate, and I want to take the time to thank him for the extra work that he's put in on this. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well said, Councilor Downer. Thank you. Any
Thank
follow-up?
you. If I may, Deputy Ross, and again, I appreciate all the comments, and certainly the thank you goes to all of our staff. You know, everyone's working tremendously hard, and I don't want to mislead anyone that, you know, when I say we're all tired, you know, I do mean that sincerely. I think everyone is just tired of the whole situation, and that goes with a lot of respect for everybody in the public service trying to do the right things, and for the, you know, the medical professionals, everybody on the front lines, everybody, you know, stocking the shelves, everybody, all the businesses who are coping with this, the people who are, you know, in long-term care trying to do all of this. Everyone's obviously tired of the situation, and you know, I think if we all take any hope out of this, is that I think we've all done a great job at coping with something that, you know, is pretty unprecedented for as long as it's gone, and we're all looking forward to just moving on.
Wonderful. Your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. As the Prime Minister said in the House today, he was elected on a mandate to continue with stringent COVID precautions until science proved that it was not necessary. Canada right now has about an 85% double to two persons vaccinated. 43% have 3 vaccines. I think, as everybody has just said, people are fed up with this, but I would say that the people who are probably most upset about the fact that there's a large number of people occupying critical care beds are those whose surgeries have been postponed for up to 3 years as a consequence of people not taking a vaccine and occupying beds. It's been demonstrated thoroughly that if you take a vaccine, you're not going to feel well. My brother-in-law and my son will both attest to that, and as will many others. But you're not going to the hospital as a rule, unless you're predisposed to an underlying condition. So please, people, get the vaccine. It's good science. It wasn't invented yesterday. It's been a 20-year process to get to mRNA vaccines. Get the vaccine. Help those poor people that are, you know, stage 2 cancer on their way to stage 4 because they can't get in for their treatment.
Thank you, worship. Any other questions or comments with regards to this item? I see none. I understand through our clerk that the deputant is now here, so I'm going to, with your permission, we'll move back to the deputation, and I'll welcome, is that correct, Madam Clerk, that the deputant is now with us?
Yes, I believe he's called in, so
Okay.
I'm not unable to promote him as panelist, but I'm going to allow him to talk.
Wonderful.
So Mr.
All
Murray,
right.
if you're there, can you just acknowledge? You might have to unmute.
You're on mute, sir. Do we have to unmute him, or he's unmuted? He needs to unmute himself.
He has to unmute himself.
Okay.
I've been emailing him and I noticed there's a Kelly Murray, but I'm not sure if that's anybody related to him.
Mr. Murray, you with us today?
I'm just going to try this
Sure.
and promote Kelly Murray and see if that.
That's his bride.
Pardon?
Kelly is his significant other.
Okay, I'm just trying to promote her.
I see a phone number up on the screen.
Do you?
Sure.
Under panelist?
Yeah, it's on my screen right now. Last 2 numbers are 18,
Yeah.
and
And I've
but
given him permission to speak.
it's muted. Mr. Murray, can you hear us by chance?
Kelly Murray has her hand up.
Yeah, I just unmuted her.
Hello?
Hello.
There we go.
How you doing today, Mr. Murray?
Hello?
can you hear us?
Yeah, barely.
All right. Everyone
Can
else?
you hear me now?
We can hear you fine. As long as
You
you,
hit something up here, Pod.
I must have hit something else because now I can't hear you guys.
we can hear you just fine.
Okay. So good evening, council.
I'll remind you that
Let
you
me
have 10
first
minutes.
introduce myself. My name's Patrick Murray, and I'm a proud Midland resident. Most of you know me, and some of you have had the privilege to sit on various committees within the town of Midland, committees and ad hocs throughout the years. As many of you know, I'm extremely passionate in the development of multi-use trails within our 4 municipalities. And I'd just like to take a minute here to thank the majority of you people for listening to my concerns that I've spoken with you in the last 2 weeks about this Vindin Street Trail. A little bit of history on the Vindin Street Trail. Between 2010 and 2013, the construction of the Vindin Street Trail was started. It was, at that point in time, it was part of the Trails Master Plan, which was planned for connections to Old Penetang Road and also out to Vindin Street, which is now the 93 multi-use trail. So you probably now are thinking about that one, eh? But so anyway, in 2013, council approved to the Georgian Bay Snow Riders access to Vindin Street, specifically for snowmobilers to gain safe access to racetrack fuels, formerly Spritz gas bar. But as you are aware now, there are several new businesses also taking advantage of that trail connection. Vindin Street, in its 9-year history, to my knowledge, has had no accidents, incidents, or anyone's upset with its location. Now to the current. 2 weeks ago, the manager of Public Works tells the snowmobile club that the trail has to be moved. My question is why? I've talked about the history of this trail. Now the present situation. Sleds are still accessing Vindin Street, either by number one, following the new trail onto Marina Road and running down the center of the sidewalk back to Vindin Street with narrow banks, as the sidewalk is 4 feet wide. It is impossible now for a snowmobile to get out of the way of a pedestrian. So that's the first. The second option is for snowmobiles to cut across private property, soon to be developed. Take your chance crossing at one of the busiest intersections in town with merging lanes and advanced screen lights. It's a very dangerous situation. Now, once you've made it alive across Vindin Street, now you have to climb over 4 huge snowbanks, which are created by the entrances into the water reservoir. Snowmobilers in Midland are not all teenagers. As we're all aware, Midland is a retirement community, and the senior population is very well represented in all of this. If we can just agree for 1 minute that this change was a complaint from a resident. Remember that in 2-day period, 500 people signed a petition that said they do not feel safe. When the entire sidewalk was groomed on 5th Street, it was perfectly safe for pedestrians and sleds, and it was treated no differently than the entire waterfront trail that we have in Midland that is groomed by the Snowmobile Club. Note today, I looked at the sidewalk this morning, and over 25% of that sidewalk was covered in ice. How is that any safer? Back in 2018, after about a 2-year program that some of you councillors were definitely involved in, we did a major ad hoc and looked at the economic, the tourism benefits, the whole big picture of snowmobiling. That report came to council in 2018 that highly endorsed snowmobiling and the tourism product we have in this town. What has changed since then? The current agreement, the Snowmobile Club has sent the town a letter and said that they are okay with the change and that it was not on the current agreement. Well, I have to be the first one to take responsibility because my name's on that agreement. And at some point in time, there was a clerical error in not adding the Vindin Street chunk on that agreement. But men and women, you have to remember, this has been historically used for 9 years with the approval of council. It was a clerical error in not drawing in a little piece on a map. To correct this problem, color in the section of the agreement, put the trail back to it where it was, or work together with the Snowmobile Club and twin the trail wherever possible. It's not entirely possible, but a lot of it could be moved away from the sidewalk if that's the major issue. But if you look to the future, the problem is going to solve itself because the east sidewalk on 5th Street has been on the books for over 10 years now and is completed down as far as Marina Park Road and will be completed to Vindin Street in the next couple of years. So it's already going to solve itself. We had a safe trail, safe crossings with very little complaints that have ever came forward to council. And now all of a sudden we've created a huge safety issue for what? It's just, I don't understand. The consequences now, the town has ordered the Snowmobile Club to move the trail. Now these people are crossing in 3 different areas, crossing over 5th Street in dangerous situations. Snowmobiles and pedestrians are running together. The condominium that now the trail's moved in front of the condominium. Now the condominium people are upset with the safety concerns on Marina Park Road, which by the way, is under full-blown construction. Now the snowmobiles are coming out at their entrances and now they're mad about the noise. Well, some of them didn't even know where the trail was when it was behind their building before. Oh.
We lost you, Mr. Murray. Are you still there? Mr. Murray, having a little technical difficulty?
Still logged in.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. Mr. Murray?
They seem to be there as attendees, but not as panelists.
I keep trying to promote them as panelists, but they're declining. So if they just accept the promotion, that may solve some of the problems.
Mr. Murray is still there? Oh, he's gone. All
No,
right.
he's still in attendees.
Okay. Not sure how much longer we can. Do we want to move on and come back to Mr. Murray and allow him, he's got about 3 minutes left of his deputation, or what's council's wish? Move on? Okay. We'll come back to Madam Clerk if Mr. Murray is to come back. If
Sure.
not, we do have a motion and we heard a few of his questions, so I'm sure we can move forward and get some answers. So next up, we have notice of motion, and it's Councillor Cunningham that had a notice of motion. If you want to read it, and it will come forward at the next meeting. Councillor Cunningham?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a motion that a committee of North Simcoe Sports and Rec Center and Parks user groups be established to explore alternate methods of supporting the maintenance and operations of NSSRC and parks, and that the results of that committee be used to establish rates and financing plan for NSSRC and parks, and that fees and rates of the town be reviewed at a granular level with a lens as to luxury versus wellness needs first, commercial versus personal second, and sustainability third, and that these rate adjustments be brought forward in a staff report to council before the next budget.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Councillor Cunningham. We'll look forward to that at next meeting. Councillor Ocheski, I see you have a motion that you'd like to bring forward for next meeting.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me okay?
We sure can. Thank you.
Okay, my motion I'm bringing forward is that the town of Midland write a letter asking the Premier and provincial government to immediately repeal Bill 124 as a first step to ending the nursing and healthcare worker shortage and preventing a health system collapse. I'll look for support at the next meeting. If any other councillors have any questions around the issue or topic, I'm happy to fill you in on why I feel this is important for the town of Midland and why I brought it forward today. I'll save the conversation for next meeting, but I do encourage you to look up Bill 124 and its repeal and the other councils that have supported this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ocheski. Any other notice of motion come forward for next meeting? I see none. How are we with Mr. Murray?
I believe they've logged back in. I've asked that they allow the promotion to panelists.
Okay.
I've allowed them to talk.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? You're back. Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I guess I'm back.
Wonderful. You have 3 minutes remaining in your deputation if you'd want to finish up.
Can they hear you?
We can definitely hear you.
I don't need to add any more to my deputation. I think you guys have all heard what I had to say.
Sure.
I am definitely having problems hearing you.
Okay. I don't know if you can hear me at all responding to you, but we definitely heard and we had a couple questions, and maybe we'll move it on to staff to answer a few of them if we could. And I see that Councillor Gordon has a question. Councillor Gordon?
Thank you. Pat, I just want you to just cut to the chase here. What's your ask of council? I'm not privy to what this motion says that somebody has, but what's your ask? That's the most important part of this deputation.
My ask is that the diagram be drawn in with that section of Vindin, and the town direct the snowmobile club to go back to maintain the trail the way it's been for the past 9 years.
Perfect.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, you heard the presentation. Is there anything you could add with regards to the change in the trail? You could, sir?
Through Deputy Mayor to Council. Dylan's online. He had the firsthand negotiations.
Well, let's go to Dylan.
With the club. So I'll let Dylan be firsthand knowledge here.
Wonderful. Hello, Mr. Flaherty. How are you this evening? I wonder if you heard the deputant, and there's a couple questions there. I wonder if you could provide some insight.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to council. Yeah, we've been able to meet with the local snowmobile club multiple times now, and we're able to come to an agreement. Really, what that aligns with the most recent agreement from 2020 between the town and the club. So the only difference really is, on Vindin. The section in question, we've still permitted them to groom. So snowmobilers still can access the fuel pumps. And really the only difference is to provide pedestrian safety along Harborview, so that we are now directing staff to plow that stretch of the sidewalk. Again, we've met with the club multiple times. They've had no safety concerns brought forward to them, nor have we received any complaints or concerns from members of the condo either.
And we did have a letter, I guess, that was came today from the Snowmobile Club, just for transparency, that provided a letter. I think we all got it. Any other questions or comments with regards to this item? Councillor Gordon?
Thanks. I never saw this letter. Did it get circulated to council? It
was on the agenda there, as added to the agenda this morning, and I know I saw it online this afternoon. And,
Okay.
if you go on to the deputation, there's a letter with it.
All right, well, if we could just cut to the chase on it then, are they in alignment with what Mr. Murray's asking? Are we good here? We don't, like,
They are
everyone's
not.
happy now?
No, they are supporting the way it is currently is, and they're not looking for any changes, is what the letter says from the Snowmobile Club.
So the Snowmobile Club and presumably all the people they represent don't feel the same way Mr. Murray and all the many signatures on
Well,
this.
it's a lot like council. We represent the whole, and they represent their membership, and they have an executive. I know they came last Thursday, met with the staff for executives, and they said that they were fine with it, and they just sent a letter to endorse that. So it would be for council and this council to make the changes, but it would be against the will, if I could use any word, that the Snowmobile Club are endorsing the way the trail is today. So they're not asking for it to be moved back. This is a petition from 500 members, and I understand. I appreciate Mr. Murray coming, and I'm very much want to listen to what he has to say, and he has some great points, but the Snowmobile Club is supporting the way that with the town. Do you have a follow-up, Councilor Gordon, or?
Well, I guess, and this is something I talked to Pat about online, or it was online or message or something.
I've had many conversations.
The agreement that we have that is subject to this dispute right now is between the municipality, the corporation, town of Midland, and the Snowmobile Club that purports to represent all of the permitted users, of which I was one for many years. I've enjoyed this piece of trail myself, but the agreement is between those two organizations, our organization and theirs. And what if, even though there are people on this signature list, I'm sure that are, because they have permits, are members of that organization. The troubling part for me is to consider overturning an agreement between our corporation and the body that purports to represent the licensed snowmobilers. When really the issue is all of these permitted members really need to petition the licensing body with whom we have the agreement to come on board with them. Because right now this is like a mini version of the trucker issue. You know, you have a group that's feeling, not represented by the people who are supposed to represent them and are coming to council. So it's causing me a little consternation that I feel for them wholeheartedly, and I shudder to think that we made some arbitrary decision outside of the agreement, but it appears we haven't. And that the body that we have the agreement with that purportedly represents all the licensed snowmobilers in our area, whether or not they're residents or not, is fine with it. And that's a little troubling for me. I'm going to have a hard time supporting change because of that problem.
As I think all of us are, and I appreciate Mr. Murray's deputation, and I believe he has some valid points, but in my eyes, and as a council member, we have an agreement, and the petition really should be going to the board of the Snowmobile Club, and they should be coming back to us saying, listen, we've heard from our members, we need this changed. Unfortunately, with the letter today, they sent a letter saying that they supported the town and didn't have an issue with the permit. So that's, I think, is where that gray area comes. And I think Mr. Murray has a great fight, but I think the fight may be with the Snowmobile Club itself. But let's hear some more, and we'll go to your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilor Gordon hit most of the points I wanted to make. The agreement is with the Snowmobile Club. The petition should go to the club. The agreement is between the corporation, the town of Midland, and the club. And doing these things on the fly, I don't think is necessarily. I take Mr. Murray's point, but I think, as has been pointed out, it needs to go to the club, and they can then come back if they think otherwise. But Mr. Flannery has met with them 3 times now, and I'm sure they're aware of the petition. and Mr. Murray's position, and still, even as late as I believe it was last evening, they were satisfied with the position of the town. So like Councillor Gordon said, I think everybody would agree that it's doing this on the fly, and I think the motion that you have will reflect this. In fact,
I'll come back to you in a second, Councillor Gordon, if there's any other questions from other councillors. Any other questions, Councillor Main?
Thank you. Yeah, well, I want to thank Mr. Murray because he's worked harder than anybody to help build snowmobiling trails. And I was fortunate enough to chair the committee that with Deputy Mayor Ross, member Frida Baldwin, who we were well familiar with, and Kirk McNabb. And as Mr. Murray was mentioning in the report, and it lays out the trail system, the current agreement looks like it matches up with the mapping from 2018, where it takes that hard eastern link at Marina Park. And so as Mr. Murray was saying, that extra Vindin spur, if you want to call it that, wasn't recognized as part of as an official trail. So I guess the question for staff is, was that historic, not really historic, but that extra little bit of trail segment, was that included in the prior agreements for the town and the snowmobiling club to maintain? Because also we're trying to reprioritize or prioritize pedestrians, and we have conflicting user groups, paving plowing a road or grooming it. So we have a bit of a challenge here. Plus, as Mr. Murray mentioned, the sidewalk on the eastern side is not yet built. And if that was, perhaps that would alleviate all the problems, but that is maybe coming down the pipe in a little bit while. Could staff talk about the Vindin spur and and how previous arrangements might have included that?
Mr. Flaherty, or would it be Mr. Campbell?
I'll take a first crack at Councillor Main's question. The previous agreements, we didn't go back. I didn't go back and look at them. I saw the information that the deputant provided. Mr. Barrio was responsible for the contract when it was done back in 2018. The Ontario Snowmobile Club maps do not show that extra piece of trail. So, our contract doesn't show it. The provincial trail map doesn't show it. And the reason we changed this year is we started getting some comments and complaints from residents who wanted to use the sidewalk. And, we do have more residents in that area than we did back in 2018 and prior to it. As Bayport starts to get built out, there's more people wanting to walk in that area. And it is a sidewalk. And, I prioritize the pedestrians over the snowmobiles for safety.
Thank you. Mr. Murray, are you with us still? Wasn't sure if you'd like to make another comment.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Murray.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, you've heard some of the conversation, I hope, and I wonder if you had a comment.
Yeah, like what we're dealing with here is a clerical error. In 2013, council approved that trail.
Right.
The trail has been there for 9 years. Because it wasn't drawn on the map was a pure clerical error, missed by Sean Burial and missed by myself when those agreements were signed.
Point taken.
And right again into 2020. It's just a plain clerical error.
Point taken.
For that little
the
OFSC level to be added into the maps is totally easy.
I guess I hope you heard that, part of the issue that they're having is that the snowmobile club is not endorsing any changes. They're satisfied with the trail it is today. So
yes, I'd like to speak to that
position.
I would like to speak to that on that point too.
Please.
When new people, and that's what we have that are the executive of the Snowmobile Club, they're all very green with this, have no background onto how these contracts have been written up and what effort goes into this stuff. when these people, green, I'll call them, are confronted by a manager of the town and told that they need to, their reaction is to do whatever to not make waves. And that is exactly what's happened here. The Snowmobile Club is not acting on the best interests of its members, but they are acting on the sole reason
Deputy Mayor,
that they
point of order. This is
not
getting
want.
personal with respect to an individual staff.
Yep.
I would ask
Thank
that
you, Your
it's
Worship. I'll have to stop you there, Mr. Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not for us to decide. The board is no different than what the council, and I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm gonna go to Councilor Gordon. Councilor Gordon, you had a question?
Thanks. So just again, reviewing the names, 500 names on this petition, and the lion's share of them are all permit holders, which means their funds go to that club, and that club is supposed to represent them as permit holders to use all of our trails, not just our trails, but the ones all throughout North Simcoe. So I guess what I'm seeing here is that there clearly is a disconnect between the current board, council, if you want to call it, of the club, and several hundred, call it 450 anyway, of permit holders on this petition that feel unrepresented to the point where they need to sign this to try and come to us and basically sidestep the agreement. My concern is that, much to Mr. Murray's point, was, I'm not suggesting that Mr. Flannery took this position at all, but my concern is perhaps the club, if they are a new management, were afraid to push back and, but the safety concerns, and capitulated out of fear of losing maybe more trails in the community. I'm not suggesting that was ever, waved in front of them, but there could be fear like that. So the only reason I'm saying this is that I would strongly encourage all of the signatories of this petition who are watching tonight or watch us on YouTube later to lobby your representatives with whom we have this legal binding agreement and basically get them to change their mind and come back to the table with Mr. Flannery and renegotiate this if that's really what they want, and not to be afraid of, getting the rug pulled out from under them by doing that. I'm sure Mr. Flannery isn't going to take that position, nor would the town. But if in fact that after they've looked at all this pushback from their own members, if they still decide, well, it is what it is, then that's up for the members to take that up with the club, and unfortunately not us. So I'm sympathetic to this. If the club was behind this and we were somehow being the bad guys, not honoring a clerical error, I would, I may have a different position. But right now, the way this sounds is this is a dispute between membership that is not feeling they're being represented properly by their club, with whom we have this binding agreement. And as recently as today, they affirmed that they still are fine with our position on this, which is very obviously disheartening for the people that signed this petition. But it's difficult for us as the little small town legislators to overturn a staff recommendation and this deal when there appears to be, not cohesion amongst the represented people of this club. So that's really, Pat, can you see the conundrum we're in here?
Absolutely.
It's horrible. It's a terrible position to be in. I really want to support you guys on this, but
As do I, but the idea is it really is a tough decision to, and I know I did mention this at the start when Mr. Murray and I did have the conversation. I said, without the support of the Snowmobile Club, it's going to be really tough for staff or and council to make a change when the Snowmobile Club endorses it. And here we are at the exact same spot. So I think I'll read the petition, the motion that came out of the deputation. And if we decide to turn it down, then we'll have to worry about it at that point. But it's that the deputation from Mr. Patrick Murray respecting the snowmobile access along Vindin Street, along with the corresponding petition provided be received for information, and that council directs staff to continue to work with the Georgian Bay Snow Riders Club. I need a mover and a seconder with regards to that item. I see Councilor Chesky moved and Councilor Gordon second. And any questions or comments with regards to that? Councilor Main?
Thank you. I just had a question for staff on the eastern sidewalk on Harborview, if that's being contemplated in the 10-year capital or if that's development contingent, because that may alleviate the problem. But again, that's a multi-year solution. That's a little bit longer than Mr. Murray would like to have resolved. But
Right. Is there any news, or do we know, Mr. Campbell, when that sidewalk will be? I know it's not in the 2022 budget, but is it coming anytime soon?
There's no new sidewalks in the future. We're still trying to fix our broken sidewalks right now. I'm sure it is in the transportation master plan, as I think there is about 60 sections of sidewalk that are identified to be built, but that's millions of dollars that we don't have today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Councilor Gordon.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, as you recall, we freshly basically gassed the sidewalk extension along Dominion because there just wasn't the money in it in this year's budget, right? I think that was originally penciled in for happening this year. Just back to this motion, I think this is very largely symbolic because we don't need a motion like this to pledge that we're going to continue to work with community residents or groups from a town/community perspective. That always happens. We don't need a motion for that. Mr. Flannery doesn't give direction to keep.
But I think it is
answering
important.
the phone from when the snowmobile club calls, right? But anyway, we're going to. This is a no-brainer to vote yes for. Of course, we're going to continue to work with them. So, happy to support this.
Councilor Gordon, I think it is important that we that we do identify that, if the snowmobile club does come and identifies a problem, that we are here to listen to them. And I do appreciate Mr. Murray, and I feel bad. What I'm seeing, we're not going to get a lot of support to move it back, but it is. I hope that they can go back to their executive and have these type of conversations and come back to the town. I have great confidence that the town. It really just puts us in a very bad position when the snowmobile club and the board and our staff are recommending something different. So I apologize, but I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So moved. Mr. Murray, thank you so much for coming this evening. We greatly appreciate your time.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good night.
Oh, it's voted down.
Yeah.
They won't do anything with it.
Now, next item up, we went to the two motions and we'll move on to general announcements. Does any councillor have an announcement to make this evening? Councillor Ocheski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick announcement to announce that I'll be participating with my street, the Lakewood Drivers, for the coldest night of the year fundraiser. I'm not sure if the town has put in I think Councillor Main usually champions that one, but in support of the guest house shelter, we're going to walk for the coldest night of the year. It's the last Saturday in February. We have started a fundraising page. I haven't shared it publicly yet, but I will be putting it on my Facebook tomorrow. If you have any extra funds kicking around that you'd like to get in the hands of the guest house shelter, they'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to walk with us, please feel free to join us. It's the last Saturday in February.
Which is February 26th.
February 26th in support of the guest house shelter. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Councillor Cunningham.
Yes, thank you. Our Cultural Alliance at culturalliance.ca has a video project going on, which we got grant funding for. In what we're doing is we're gathering some of the stories. So who do you know who is perhaps an older person in the area or who has shared some great stories from their grandparents and has some history, maybe careers that don't exist anymore, or just some experiences that we would really like to capture and not lose? This is not great public speakers we're looking for. We're not looking for that polish. We're looking for someone who's willing to sit down, someone's willing to sit down in conversation and have a casual interview conversation to just share their stories of the history of Midland. This is happening in all 5 of our council areas that are involved in the Cultural Alliance. There is a link on that website as well as an application. But if you don't want to go through the whole application process and you just want to send us an email, then we can get you started as well. We know that there are some wonderful stories out there. And so we're trying to make this as accessible and fun and friendly as we can. You can see some examples of those stories on YouTube. They were collected by Askinonia, did a wonderful intergenerational story collecting as well. And we just want to keep collecting more of them. The deadline is coming up quickly, but if you can sneak in the next couple of days and connect with us, it would be wonderfully appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Any other announcements, Councillor Gordon?
Thanks. This is kind of a piggyback with Councillor Main. He's really our local tree guy. I'll let him add some color to this. I'll kick it off. He probably has his own announcements too, but this is just in recognition of the 17 street trees that successfully got planted down on Aberdeen. The community, it's a couple of new Midlanders, Ian and Diana Ross. Not that Diana Ross, but a Diana Ross came to town and really fired up the street and the neighbors and the town, and had all kinds of back and forth with us about how they can work together with the town and get some trees planted. And about $16,000 worth of trees were planted along Aberdeen. If you have an opportunity to drive by and see them, they're sleeping right now. Maybe not the Rosses, but the trees anyway. And you can see the results of this sort of crowdfunding, community-spirited tree planting. So I'm behind anything like that that's good for our community. The fact that it was trees, that's lovely. I like trees. Councillor Main likes trees more than I do, though. So I'm going to pass the baton in case he's got any more color to add to the story.
Apologize. Thank you, Councillor Gordon, and Your Worship. You're on mute, unfortunately.
I think after 2.5 years, I know where that button was. I think Councillor Main had his hand up there, did you not? Oh, thank you. I just wanted to point out that part of Midland's Love Your Laneway project, we're looking for suggestions to name the east and west walkways from the back parking lots to King Street. There is, you can visit engagingmidland.ca//name your walkways and cast your suggestion along with a brief description of why you chose it. And that's open until I believe the 11th. You can submit as many names as you like, and then a group will be pulled together to select some names, and they'll come before council. So it's your opportunity. These are the laneways that run from Borsa Lane between Creative Cuts at the Guardian Drugstore and from the lot behind TD Bank and Scotiabank. So it's running up adjacent to Scotiabank. So take the opportunity to get your name in the hat there, and we'll see what comes out of it.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Councillor Main.
Thank you. I just found out about those trees this morning at Councillor Gordon when we got emailed. So this was news to me, which is great. And thanks, Councillor Shevsky. We did close night of the year last year, and that was chose a nice cold year to nice cold night to do that. So we'll try to figure out how to support them best we can. I just want to say thank you to the Midland Public Library as part of Midland's recognition of Black History Month. There is a event February 22nd at 7 p.m. A bunch of the libraries in Simcoe County are participating. Check out their website for the information. And as everyone likes it cold, I will be volunteering with Winterama, and I'll be running the Croca Curl event at the Penetang Museum next Saturday and Sunday. So check out the Winterama if you're looking for something to do in person. So there's some fun virtual events for our friends to our north, and hopefully I'll see you guys then. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Main. Any other announcements? I had one, if I could. I just want to give a big shout out to and a thank you to Deputy Mayor Norcross of New Tecumseh, and he's the chair of corporate services. And Mr. Norcross, Councillor Norcross, and we understand it's the first time it's ever happened at County Council. Gave up his chair and gave it to the deputy, his vice chair, to chair the meeting, and that being myself. So it was great to have the opportunity to chair my first corporate service meeting at the County of Simcoe yesterday, and I can't thank Councillor Norcross enough for allowing that. So I just wanted to officially thank him. So thank you very much, Councillor Norcross of New Tecumseh. Councillor Cunningham.
If I can just mention that our communications person, Randy Fee, is making a wonderful point of keeping news on the front page of midland.ca. So anything that we did not mention, there are a few items right on the front. There's a wonderful scrolling marquee that you can click through and see some of the things that are happening so that you can actually stay up to date right through the website.
Thank you. Councilor Chesky, final word?
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess we got bumped on TV for Penetang Town Council, but I did hear that the town of Penetang Machine also brought a motion forward today to send a letter to repeal Bill 124 that I brought forward today as well. So some more good power for working together solutions. So hopefully we can have a better conversation together and with our neighbors in Penetang Machine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So last item, I'll move notice to close the committee of whole and resume the formal session. Moved by Councilor Main and second by Councilor Ochesky. All those in favor? So carried. Your worship, it's all yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a motion here moved by Councilor Gordon, seconded by Councilor Downer, that the recommendations of the committee of the whole for the meeting of February 9th, 2022 be adopted as resolutions of council. All those in favor, comments or questions? Sorry to do that to you. All in favor? Thank you. That's unanimous. Next, the motions for which notice was given, and we have a motion moved by Councilor Gordon. Councilor Gordon.
Thanks. I guess before I can even read it, I need a seconder. Everyone's read it, okay? Right on, I got a couple hands, so seconded by Councillor Cunningham. And this is quite simply that Midland follow the example set by Barrie and implement a program whereby downtown pay parking related tickets can be quashed by having the offender produce a sales receipt from a local downtown business for the time when the offense was done. So just quickly here, I mean, I'm sure everyone's followed along and saw this implemented in other municipalities. I think the most local one was Barrie. It was done as a tool. Sorry, Worship.
Sorry, I'm having a very hard time hearing you. Am I the only one? Is it my computer? So the rest of you can hear him quite clearly? Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councilor, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure, no problem. Is that better?
That's very much better, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I had my headset selected as my mic, which is currently over to the left here. So good thing I'm a loud talker. So long story short here is this was a program implemented in many municipalities. The most closest one, I believe, was Barrie. And it's just a way to show some support for the downtown merchants. Everybody's downtown has been struggling through COVID, lockdowns, semi-lockdowns, quasi-lockdowns, everything we've been living through. And this is not meant to be like a redux of, hey, let's pause the parking system that, that we, Councillor Oshesky lit the fire again today on his Facebook page by talking about parking. But this is this isn't about that. This is, keeping the parking system the way it's working right now until we get that a report in March. I think Mr. Deneau said we were getting, where I would like to revisit, by the way, the mandatory requirement to put in your license plate and just go back to pay and display. But we'll talk about that then. But anyway, this is just to get this program rolling. It's not rocket science. It's not going to take a lot of staff time. It takes an email or a phone call to Barrie. Hey, how did you roll this out? How did it work? And just put this in place until the province has lifted all the restrictions. I know we're slowly opening up, and I was kind of hoping that it would have happened by now, so I wouldn't even need this motion. But as long as we have capacity limits and the requirements for vax passports and everything else that comes along with the pandemic that we're still in, this is just a nice little way for the town to show some extra support to the local downtown merchants. Not by encouraging everybody just to free for all and not pay, because we all know a lot of people are going to pay. There's just like a lot of people get vaccinated. It's just a thing we do. We're supposed to do it. We do it, right? So I'm not suggesting this is a free for all and we put bags over these machines. But if somebody knows that this program exists and they get a ticket because they forgot to feed the meter or use the app, then they could come to town hall with their receipt saying they were having, a nice lunch or they were shopping at one of the local stores like Pebble Tree, that was part of this whole talk online today. And they could say, wow, I got a ticket. Here's my receipt. I was shopping downtown, one of the local merchants. And then one of our kind staff would just, void the ticket, and that would be the end of that. I don't expect we're going to see staggering losses to our coffers, but it's a little show of good faith. I know the BIA would wholeheartedly support this, and the chamber, although I don't have, evidence to present tonight. I think we all know from our comms with them routinely that they do. And I'm just asking to put this into place with a deadline of when it ends, and that's when the pandemic restrictions are lifted and there's no more capacity limits on our businesses downtown. So I'm just looking for council support to endorse this and to set staff off to basically check on feasibility and make sure that we can pull this off. And we could find out about it at our next meeting, because I don't expect anything to happen instantly in politics. I know that. So that's my preamble. Subject to any questions, I'll let you guys bang this around.
Who's your seconder, please? Councillor Cunningham, thank you. And shall we read the motion? Just read the motion in the record so we have it, and then we can debate it.
Sure, I did, but I'll read it again.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
I was long-winded though. I'll just quickly bang it out quickly. That Midland follow the example set by Barrie and implement a program whereby downtown pay parking related tickets can be quashed by having the offender produce a sales receipt from a local downtown business for the time when the offense was noted. And you note in there that I put in downtown pay parking related tickets. This isn't somebody parking illegally in a handicap spot or something like that. This is, a meter infraction.
Thank you, Councillor. I saw Councillor Main, I believe. And Mr. Deneau, did you wish to speak to this? Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for putting this forward. When I first read the motion, I go, oh, there's lots of loopholes in here that worried, but looking at the Barrie program, they have a couple of caveats. So one, they specifically just said restaurants, trying to support the restaurant industry, but I think broadly you could just say businesses downtown. But they say if you spent an amount equal or greater than the fine, just so that people don't grab a cup of coffee and then, you got free parking for the day. I believe, so we just checked before the meeting, it sounds like our parking fee is $25. Barrie also has it within 5 days. So it's not this really lingering program. So you can go, oh, well, I got fined and, 2 weeks later you try to amend it so that it's a quick turnaround. Which a bit of a concern because the receipts that are printed out from most businesses, it's usually printed with bisphenol A and usually with a little bit of sun, those receipts, they just disintegrate. So having a short timeline makes it this program to be tight. And as Councillor Gordon said, it does not cover safety issues, parking in front of hydrants or even overnight being towed. So if we want to emulate the City of Barrie's program, I think that's great. And I know that we've heard from the Simcoe County's Together Forever conferences or whatever they're called, Stronger Together. The City of Bradford had a similar amnesty program where people would reach out to the town and they would basically talk it out and lessen their fine or something. But this seems to be a great little incentive to try to get people downtown and spend some money in the shops. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Deneau.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to just on the topic, and certainly Adam can add any additional information given he's got the bylaw enforcement. We do have a new bylaw enforcement officer, as you all know, and David Smiley is getting up to speed. And one of the things that he did very, very early in joining the town was he did meet with the BIA. So he reached out to the BIA to make sure he understood any ideas or concerns they had just with bylaw in general, and he continues to have good conversations with them. So I think that was really important. Part of that is obviously getting some feedback on what changes we might want to consider for the parking program. And that's what you're going to see in that report, the next council meeting. So that is going to come forward. I think there's some really good, thoughtful aspects that are being considered. How can we make the program maybe easier to use? We'll comment on the availability of the program, which I know there's been some concerns with, but I'll tell you right now that the system is highly available, and there's stats that we'll share to make sure people are aware of that. However, we do think there are things that we can do to improve the program and the usability of the program and help people to educate and understand how do we handle enforcement. There's very light enforcement going on right now, obviously, and that was the direction of council. Let's use this as an education. Let's encourage people to use the system so we can gain the stats to understand what their experience is like. And thankfully, we've been able to do that. So, Dave Smiley, as I said, our enforcement officer, Jim Reicheld, who had the portfolio before, Angela, who's on our customer experience team, using all the information that they're gaining from what people are telling us, and with the input of the BIA to try and come up with a better program. So you're going to hear about that in March. If there's something like this that you want us to consider in addition to that, that's certainly some direction we'll take. But I think I'd encourage you to listen to that parking update before we make any other changes on top of that.
Thank you, Mr. Deneau. Mr. Farr, you had anything to add to that?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think CEO Deneau covered a good summary of where things are at. As he mentioned, Supervisor Smiley has been doing a good job familiarizing himself with the background and in connecting and developing a kind of report on monitoring implementation and seeing how things unfold as the community stabilizes, as communities stabilize in the wake of the pandemic. I'd like to also note that through the 2022 budget, Council approved a review of the programs that are offered in the Downtown Community Improvement Plan. And those programs are under review to determine whether they're effective in achieving the goal of revitalizing the downtown area. And we would expect there to be broad-based engagement with the downtown business community around those programs and where they might go in the future. And as I said, as we start to see stabilization and emergence of the new normal post-pandemic, we'll have even more information. We expect to work closely with the business community on revitalization issues.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. Mr. Deneau, can you remind us of the reopening schedule from the province, please? You're on mute.
I apologize, Your Worship. The reopening schedule for the province?
Yes.
Yeah, the reopening schedule for the province, the next date, February 21st. There's continued relaxation of some of the capacity restrictions, so more people outside, more people in indoor spaces. And then on March 14th, 2022, is further lifting of many of the capacity restrictions. At this time, they're still saying proof of vaccination will still be maintained. That's part of the plan today.
Thank you. So we're basically open on the 14th, barring some unexpected variant, save and except for the vaccine certificate requirements.
And some capacity restrictions, but not anywhere near what we've seen today.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions with respect to the motion? Councillor Main.
So if we pass this motion, would that basically give direction to staff to include this as part of the parking review, that there's consideration towards this pilot of amnesty program?
Councillor Gordon, I guess it's your motion. So
I'm fine with that. There's no way this is going to turn on, and if we pass it tonight, it's not like it's going to be in place next week. So we'll have our council meetings every 3 weeks now. Mr. Deneau says this report on parking, I'm really looking forward to, is coming next meeting. I'm content to see this kind of bound in with that.
Thank you. All right, well then I guess I'll call the question. Is there any point in deferring that staff understands that this is going to be part of their mandate? Or do you just want to pass the motion? Councillor Olszewski, you have a comment.
Your Worship, I just want to talk to the difference between deferring and passing the motion today. I was happy when I heard you say that we would just tack this on to the report next month, because I think this is a gesture of good faith to the downtown businesses. They're definitely frustrated. There seems to be a damaged relationship between the downtown merchants and council, and they're stating that publicly, multiple downtown business owners. So I think this is a gesture of good faith, and while it does do the same thing, deferring it as just tacking it out of the report, I think it's important, and I don't think we can afford another bad headline. It's great to hear that our new staff members are meeting with the BIA. I think we've got a bit of a damaged relationship there, and I think we need to mend it. I think this is the first step to mend that relationship. So I would support this. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just call the question then. All those in favor of the motion? Carries. Deputy Mayor, I think the next item is a motion by me, so I'll ask you to take the chair, please.
Wonderful, happy to. Thank you, Your Worship. Next motive is 7.2, and if you want to read the motion.
Thank you. It's that regarding official plan amendment 2020-OPA-07, zoning bylaw amendment 2020 ZBA-02 for Ogden's Beach Road, Tay Township. Midland Council directs staff to provide the following comments to the Tay Township Clerk in advance of the forthcoming related February 10th, 2022 public meeting. That the Town of Midland Council promotes the application of planning principles, practices, and processes that support the best practices in community planning and are in accordance with Ontario's policy-led planning system, including all related legislation, policies, and regulations. Purpose of the motion is fundamentally to, as a placeholder in any subsequent proceedings. So I need a seconder if I could, please.
Yeah, seconded by Councillor Downer.
Thank you, Councillor Downer.
Any questions or comments with regards to this item? Councillor Gordon, and then I'll go to Councillor Main.
Thanks. So I think my comment that I emailed the mayor is this, is rather like an anemic motion. I know where it's coming from and what it's for. And just for the people that don't, this is stemming from issues in Ward 2, which is no longer, but along Aberdeen and Riverwalk, right across the water, you could skip a stone and cross the water. That's where the marina is planning on putting in pads and trailer parking spots for mobile type homes. It's being characterized as a trailer park, in the negative sense, when the tornadoes go through and suck up all the homes. But it could be something a lot fancier and highbrow, and I suspect it will end up being. But the bottom line is it's short-term type rental housing of a luxury format that doesn't feel or fit like it belongs right across the water from all the homes along Aberdeen. So, I have had people approach me going, oh, boo-hoo, these are the rich people complaining. But the bottom line is their lot in life and how they're able to come across to live in beautiful homes like that is really irrelevant. These are Midland residents and ratepayers. And they, if this was not Tay Township across 100 feet of water, and that was Midland, I don't know that any of us would approve of a development like that in such close proximity to any neighborhood, let alone one that's like Aberdeen and along the River Walkway. So this can't be about the kind of folk that can afford to live there and the fact they live on the water in Georgian Bay. This needs to be about any resident X. And would Midland permit this type of planning in our municipality? And I would like to believe we wouldn't, but this isn't our municipality. This is Tay. And this is up to Tay to decide what they do and whether they want to, basically the only thing that would be stopping them is a good neighbor, a good neighbor feeling. If there's no good planning legal leg to stand on. So I think what this motion does is it gives us standing so that if there is an appeal, or when there is appeal, I guess I should say, that we have the ability to weigh in. What I have asked some of the proponents or opponents in this case to do is to reach out to the mayor specifically in Tay Township, because it would be wholly inappropriate for me to do that, even though I really just wanted to call Ted on my phone, but I've been spanked for that in the past. I've learned, stay in my lane. So I've asked them to do that and to reach out and just have a talk with the mayor and see where his head's at on it. Because I know Ted from working here in Midland and being our CAO, he's a smart guy, but he's also a politician and he's responsible for Tay Township and their tax money. And this is largely a finance-driven decision that they're supporting this because of the increase in revenues, and it's just unused land. So I can understand that. I think we have an uphill battle. And I don't know that we have jurisdiction as a municipality to tell Tay Township other than to say, hey, not cool. But really, that's not worth, the salt or the gunpowder to blow it to hell. It's just basically an opinion by us. But we have a duty to do this for our residents, any residents, no matter what neighborhood this was across from. And that's why I wholeheartedly support us doing what we can, even if it's symbolic. So I've heard some good planning arguments from our side of the fence, because there's some people that have spent their entire professional careers in planning, and they've, their evidence and their compelling reasons why this is a bad idea seems sound to me. But I have to know on the other side of the fence, there's equally adept people in planning that are making an argument for this development. So I was just trying to add some color on what this is about and what this sort of benign looking motion that we're being asked to vote on really boils down to. And, you know, it could be characterized as a NIMBY argument, but I think it really isn't in this case. I think it's more of a, you know, would we do this for any neighbor in any area in any development in our municipality? And I think we would. So the answer is, why wouldn't we do it for them? So I'm happily going to support this and hope that, we're victorious in some capacity, or that some compromise is reached. And if not, we will have done everything we can do within our jurisdiction.
Thank you,
So
Councilor Gordon.
that's my spiel on this one.
Councilor Main.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess along the lines of Councilor Gordon was the question of jurisdiction. If there's legitimate planning concerns or whatever, I was thinking that perhaps the community group, that's probably the best vessel for them to launch their objections in the planning process. I was just curious if we could hear from Mr. Farr, because this is new for us, is when, intermunicipal boundary planning issues is kind of a new thing. So what does this statement mean going forward in terms of, I guess it's not the LPAT, it's not the OMB, it's the Ontario Land Tribunal, I guess. So can we just talk about the precedent, or if there's other municipalities that have also done this where they've kind of objected to development in other municipalities? This is new for us. Thank you.
Mr. Farr, care to comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Councilor Main. I don't think that this motion is about objecting to anything right now. This is a motion that endorses and supports the practice of good planning in municipalities. And this municipality we're talking about happens to be adjacent to Midland. And there are a range of public interests and a process that Township is going through to parse through the various different issues and balance the matters that are presented by the applications that are under review. We do know that TAY has opened up their process to further engage the interested public in the planning process, and viewing and hearing the motion that council has had in front of it tonight. It's clear that this is an expression of support for Tay Township as they go through this exercise and grapple with these community issues and consider how they first as staff arrive at recommendations for their council. So I would see this more as a motion that is a positive and supportive motion for the purpose of good community planning.
Thank you, Mr. Farr. Follow up, Councilor May? Nothing, Mayor Strathern?
Thank you. Mr. Farr, is there any planning basis for Midland to be able to intervene in the process undertaken by Tay Township? And if we present this as part of their process tomorrow, do we then have intervener rights in the event that something comes up?
Mr. Farr?
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to the mayor. The Planning Act in Ontario allows individuals and interests to speak to matters that are part of a statutory process. And by statutory process, I mean, in this case, there's an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment that are proposed by an interest in Tay Township. People or entities that wish to speak to this statutory process, they can do so, and the Planning Act affords them a right to speak to these matters. And when someone does speak to the matters through written submission before a final decision is rendered, it entitles those people or entities the right to participate if they wish to do so or advance, if they wish to do so, in the context of any appeal process that might unfold. This is a companion, I guess, right that is triggered when a member of the public or an interested party speaks to a matter in a statutory process, such as an OPA or ZBA, official plan amendments, and zoning bylaw amendment. So I think that in the mayor's comments on this, use the term placeholder. I, from a staff and a professional planning standpoint, would see this first and foremost as a kind of a communication of support to Tay Township with respect to planning principles and good community planning. But it does have the consequence of or has the effect, the companion effect of it should, for some reason, that Midlands and you wish to participate or speak later during appeal proceedings, if those were to unfold, it allows them to do so. Where to remain silent, they would not have that privilege.
Mr. Farr, follow on, Deputy Mayor. I mean,
Sure, follow up.
You recall, Council, that we passed a motion with respect to awaiting county's position. There was on three things. One was had to do with environmental concerns. Another had to do with hydrologic concerns, flooding, etc. And the other, I believe, had to do with cultural concerns. And so counties come back to Tay Township with basically so the position, as I understand it, that they don't have any concerns with any of the three. With respect to Mayor Walker, I, as recently as last Friday, had a conversation with Mayor Walker, and it's not the first, it may not be the last, expressing my thought that they've been grappling with short-term rental issues and how to control them. And there is an opinion on this side of the river that short-term rentals, this is just going to compound the problem. I don't know whether that's true or not. I understand that these facilities are basically available for their boating patrons and only there. But I think that Mayor Walker he expressed to me that he's heard the concerns from the residents in Aberdeen and Riverwalk. He's cognizant of that, but he doesn't see it the same way, given the caliber of the installation that's proposed to go in there. They, in his opinion, have followed the planning process appropriately. And I think that the residents have done a good job of expressing their concerns. But as we all know, planning is a very technical. Councilor Main is well aware of this, as I guess we all are. It's a very technical process, and it's almost an on-off switch at each stage, and you either meet the requirements or you don't. And it seems that this has met the requirements of the Planning Act, and Tay is entitled to, as a municipality, to exercise their rights as a council to endorse or not. So I guess we'll find out tomorrow. But,
all right.
I do think that we are in a place where we can you know, at least project ourselves forward if we need to at some point in time.
Thank you. Mr. Denor, did you have something to add? No. Councilor Gordon, last word. If you could keep it under a minute.
Yeah, no problem. I guess the $1 million question I think Councillor Main was looking for, and Mr. Farr, you gave a very detailed answer, but I don't think exactly what he was looking for is, in your opinion, and maybe we need to have these discussions more in camera, because I don't know if that qualifies or not, but is there a legal leg to stand on with what you've read from the residents' concerns from from a planning perspective? Do we have any way to stop this other than just basically doing a protest, letter saying, please don't do that to our residents. It's not very nice. They don't want it. Therefore, we're asking you not to do it. Do we have anything beyond that we can do?
sounds like a lot like the deputation we had earlier that, you know, we represent. It's another group that they're concerned about, but anyway, sorry, Mr. Farr, if you want to answer.
Through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Gordon, I have not formed a professional opinion on this matter. I have observed the kind of goings on and see the municipality advancing through the process, and they have opened up an additional a meeting to allow the public to speak to the matters, and so at this time it would be a premature and to some extent inappropriate for me to speak in terms of my role in providing advice to the town of Midland from a professional standpoint on this. But as I said, that I just know the observations I think that are available to everybody as to how the proceedings are unfolding.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Farr. Any other questions or comments? I see none. We'll call the vote. All those in favor of this motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, so carried. Thank you so much. Your worship, you want to return?
Deputy Mayor. Next we have item 18, which is bylaws. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Ross, seconded by Councillor Downer. The bylaw 2022-11 being a bylaw to establish rates for water and sewer services. I got this right now. Yes, I beg your pardon, sorry. For water and sewer services related to the operation of the systems and to repeal bylaw 2021-9 be passed and enacted. Although, any questions or comments with respect to the bylaw? Councillor Gordon.
Thanks for just for people following along. This is housekeeping as a result of us passing the budget, right? This is the new rates. We can't do this with the taxes yet because we're still waiting on the finalizing that, but this is the rate-based stuff, and this is what's come from our budget.
That's correct. Seeing no other comments or questions, all those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimously. Next, we have a motion by Councillor Gordon, seconded by Councillor Cunningham, that bylaw 2022-12, being a bylaw to adopt the proceedings of the regular council meeting held February 9th, 2022, be passed and enacted. All those in favor? Thank you. That carries unanimously as well. And finally, moved by Councillor Main, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ross, that this regular meeting of council with closed session adjourn at 7:43. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, council, and try and stay warm. Enjoy your evening.